This Monday was the deadline for the vaccine mandate given to New York State medical personnel by New York State Governor Hochul. Now, if you were not vaccinated by this Monday, you were fired from your job, walked out, suspended without pay, and are ineligible to accept unemployment. Governor Hochul's response, and part of her planning to this, is to bring military personnel in and substitute them for the medical personnel that they've lost. I'm going to say that again. Thousands of nurses are being replaced with New York National Guard personnel. And if you're not worried, you've never ran into a brand new 68 whiskey, an Army medic, that just came out of training. But before I get into that, let me give you a quick breakdown of this entire thing so we're on the same page. Now, before I get going, this does not represent any view of the military, DOD, or the New York Army National Guard. I am a civilian just stating facts and then making jokes about the Army. That is all this is. The governor of New York has told all New York State medical personnel that have lived through the pandemic, worked through the pandemic, remained healthy through the worst of the pandemic, that if they don't get vaccinated now, when it's not as big as it was a year ago, they will be fired. The people that were heroes a year ago, fucking heroes in mass, doing the job super great, they're gonna get fired. The heroes are now not heroes. They're endangering everybody, even though they were doing what they were doing 6 months ago in a really great way. They made them heroes. They're gone. So that's one thing, which is weird, but that's what's happening. It's a fact. Next point. Because these healthcare workers are getting fired and laid off and having to find jobs elsewhere because they're not going to get the vaccine and they've passed the mandatory date, there is a large gap in the medical field. As of September 22nd, 16% of all medical personnel were still unvaccinated. And if you need that in numbers, 3 out of 20 people that are working in the medical field are unvaccinated. 3 out of 20. 1.5 out of 10. But I mean, there's no such thing as a half a person. Unless you go to Walter Reed and you see some, veterans there. I digress. So with this massive hole vacant of healthcare workers, nurses, etc., the governor's response is that she's going to bring in people from out of state and out of country, along with military personnel, to fill those gaps. What I got out of that was a bunch of New Yorkers are getting fired from their jobs so that people from outside the state can take New York jobs. New Yorkers are getting fired so that people from the other states can get put into their jobs, thus raising the unemployment in New York State, but employing people from out of state. I don't understand that, but once again, that's a fact. That is a fact. That is not an opinion. Next point. The military personnel that are coming in to fill in for this large gap of medical personnel that have been fired and let go. There's an issue there. Because all the doctors and registered nurses in the military, all right, do that job in the civilian world. Okay? You're not a doctor in the military and then you're busting concrete in the civilian world. No, if you're a doctor or a pediatrician in the military, you have your own practice in the civilian world. That's kind of the thing, right? You get to pay for your education through the Army and then get this great civilian job because of it. Yay, go Army! So my confusion here is, if this person is already in the medical field and happens to be a guardsman, how is that gonna work? You're gonna tell this soldier, hey, you work at the City of Buffalo Hospital, but they lost a whole bunch of personnel because of the mandate. So I'm gonna activate you in the Army to then fill in the gap of the medical personnel at the City of Buffalo Hospital, where you already work. But at the same time, so that hole is still going to be there. It's literally the saying, robbing Peter to pay Paul. The number doesn't change. The number doesn't change. My next point. I don't know how many medical personnel are going to fill up these holes, because in New York City alone, there are 43,000 medical personnel, and 5,000 of them are unvaccinated. That is over 10%. So in order to fix the 5,000 personnel hole in New York City, just New York City, you would have to activate half of the entire New York Army National Guard, medical personnel or not, to fill in for medical professionals. We don't have those numbers. And this ties into the previous point. How are you going to activate all your medical personnel to fill in for this 5,000 just in New York, when most of the medical personnel that are licensed physicians are already doing their job? It's the double dipping thing again. Next point. Most of the medical personnel that are in the New York Army National Guard are 68 Whiskeys, which are medics, which in the civilian world is a basic EMT. Some are intermediate EMTs, but they're not even paramedic status. And if you don't know what that means the only thing the majority of the medical personnel you're pulling from the Army can do is trauma. And I'm talking about combat trauma. If you've got a head injury from a car accident, you know what the fuck to do for that. If you're talking about a broken leg, they can splint it. If you're talking about some stitches, yeah, they can do that. But do you want a brand new medic that's got maybe 5 different incidents of stitching somebody up? Or do you want a nurse that's been doing it for like 10 years that has literally thousands of times she's sewn somebody up? Now let's just take the emergency room out of it. Let's just say, hey, the emergency room is all filled up. Now we need these 68 Whiskeys elsewhere. Where are they gonna go? They're gonna be popping out babies? Like, there's no prenatal care or no NICU service that an Army medic is prepared for. And honestly, ladies, do you want some 21-year-old who only knows how to hand out ibuprofen and give you an IV to start getting ready to catch that football of a baby about to snap out of your snatch, and then sew you up, and it's the first time he's ever sewn a taint? Just the first time he's ever sewn anything, let alone your beautiful happy place down there. Your sniz is gonna look like Frankenstein's forehead. Now my next point, which goes into the practice of the majority of these medical personnel from the Army, the medics, they have a national certification once they complete their medical training in the Army. You want to hear a little secret about that medical certification that they get? It's not accepted in New York State. Look at all the states that accept it. All these states, only these states, which is so sad, accept what an Army medic can do right off the bat when they get done with their training, which once again is nationally certified. New York State ain't on there. So how are they gonna practice any type of medicine in New York State if they're not licensed? Now here's an answer for you. Reciprocity. Reciprocity, in a nutshell, means I have certifications from one place and I want them to be recognized by New York State. Now, New York State will take that national certification that the medics got and they'll certify it. But it costs money and takes months to do. And let me tell you, I don't think that we're gonna have months to wait to fill up this massive hole down here of all these medical personnel that got fired and left because they didn't get the jab. Is somebody already on that? Is somebody already accepting their thing? I don't know how they're gonna do it fast enough. It's already taken months without a pandemic. Speak of the devil, we've got some military personnel here ready to help you out with all of your medical needs. Come here, buddy.
Have no fear, New York. Private Potato, Guardian of the Space Force, is here to save you. Into the sky! Is that a baby? I can help you deliver it by standing here and saying push or breathe or something like that. and I can make sure to give you Motrin for the pain that you have, because I cannot technically, as a medic, issue out any sort of medication that isn't over the counter. Into the sky! Excuse me, sir. Do you have dementia or some sort of mental health problem? I don't know how to deal with that, because I wasn't trained in any sort of mental health or psychiatric care, and neither was 99% of all the other people here. Drink water. Into the sky! Oh no! The woman is still bleeding after childbirth! Quick! Put a tourniquet on her vagina! Into the sky! Oh no! This person needs to be intubated with oxygen because they are having the bad breathing times. I will use an air compressor from the garage and shove it in your mouth so that you can blow up like a big blueberry like the girl in Willy Wonka. Into the sky! Oh no, it seems as though I killed somebody by accident. There is a malpractice lawsuit. Am I to blame, or is New York State or the Army to blame? Am I liable because I jacked up the person and they're dead because I'm not qualified for this job? I can get into the sky!
Now, I'm not going to do this for everybody that sends me an email, but if you feel like that this is a cause that you can get behind, here is a GoFundMe supporting legal action against the mandate that creates a vacuum of medical personnel in New York State, which, in my opinion, and from the facts that I've stated, seems like it cannot be filled in the manner that has been proposed. So I've already donated to it. I think that if you want to support legal action against this mandate, then you go right ahead. Okay. Before anybody thinks that I'm shitting on 68 whiskeys and medics and Army medical personnel, I'm not. In fact, if there was a legitimate need and you needed to throw a bunch of medical personnel into some sort of abyss and you said, hey, you've never ran an x-ray, they would learn how to do it. They are capable individuals that can learn a multitude of tasks quickly and do them efficiently. However, quick on the job, drop off, do this thing is not anywhere near the amount of sophistication or skill that a nurse or civilian medical professional that has spent years doing and going to school for has. They are not on the same par. So the next time I pass out, I don't get a silver bullet 10 times the size of my fist up my butt.